Look, I might be biased in terms of the product that we produce, but I think rugby league's the best product and the best sport in the world. There's not many people that have never watched a game, then watch a game and think, I didn't enjoy that. Even the 0-0 games are probably the best games to watch. I played in a 0-0 game, and it's the first time ever that it's happened in the league. There's nothing that stadium doesn't have. There's nightclubs, like you say. I think 𝐒𝐈 were performing it while one of the games were on when I went and watched Raiders versus, I'm not 100% sure, I can't remember who the team were, but it were unbelievable. There's nothing that the stadium doesn't have. First question of how the environment is of a team, it depends on what team you're in. I'm in a really successful team in Wigan, and I think we have to pay most of our success and credit to as culture. Because without every team, you'll know in business, every business has got the certain KPIs and the things that they put on a board for what they want to achieve. I don't watch TV Monday to Friday. I try to stay off social media, for so long. And, picking up a book and just reading a book that normally I'd have been like, that's boring now, I'll move on to the next thing. Picking up a book and reading a book when you sat in boredom for a little bit is the best thing in the world to read. And these little things like that, I want to learn how to play an instrument. The baptism of fire, they made sure that I knew I was in the Super League now and it's time for you to grow up. And I can remember just being on the field 1 or 2 minutes, my heart feeling like it were beating out of my chest. I could taste blood because of the game was so fast. And literally, I'd been training for this game for years.
What's up, everybody? This is Simon. On this episode of The Ideal Hour, I got Kruise Leeming. Did I say that right? Last name, Kruise?
Spot on, right. I know
that's good.
Get Leeming, but Leeming's spot on.
Excellent. All right. And you're a professional rugby player, which is intense. We're going to talk about rugby. It's a sport that I've seen on Instagram, on TV. It's not as popular here in the States because of American football, but it's catching on, and I think it's one of the toughest, craziest sports. You're also, you won multiple titles with do they call them Wigan? Is that it? Vegan or Wigan? Wigan. Sorry. I'm so bad. I'm not American born, etc. So the Wigan Warriors, it's a Super League. You've won some titles. I mean, you're the real deal. Thanks for coming on. We're going to talk about rugby and why you did it.
No, thanks for having me. I like what you do. I've seen a couple of your episodes, like what you're doing. So yeah, no worries, man. It's good to have an audience in the States as well. We played over there talking about rugby. We played at Raiders ground, the Allianz Stadium. So we know Vegas. We know you guys.
Vegas, that stadium I haven't been to. The Raiders used to be where I'm at, Oakland, and that was a dangerous ground, man. Like Oakland is kind of like Compton of the Bay Area, right? Like where, Eazy-E type of thing. Like you don't play around in Oakland. It's a war zone. In some cases. There's people, like I drive through Oakland, I assume someone has a gun in their car. That's how crazy it is. You know what I mean?
Wow.
The Raiders moved from Oakland to Las Vegas, and I hear they have a very beautiful stadium in Las Vegas.
Unbelievable. It's probably the nicest stadium I've ever played at. And I couldn't believe how hot it was on the day to play in Vegas. That Vegas heat is different type of heat, but they had the stadium air-conned. So I was like, this is unbelievable.
Oh, the whole stadium's air-conditioned, huh?
Air-conditioned, yeah.
Wow. They have these like luxury boxes in there as well. I've seen on like media and so forth where people like dine out and it looks like a club. There's like a DJ or something. I'm like, whoa.
There's nothing that stadium doesn't have. There's nightclubs, like you say. I think 𝐒𝐈 were performing it while one of the games were on when I went and watched Raiders versus, I'm not 100% sure, I can't remember who the team were, but it were unbelievable. There's nothing that the stadium doesn't have.
I actually love that because I'll tell you this much though. Oakland Stadium was a dump. Like they really upgraded. It was a decaying old stadium, but it had like that core Oakland, like the Oakland Raiders were, like if you look at
the history.
There's history, man. If you look at like their pregame parties in the parking lots in Oakland Raiders just on YouTube, there's like strippers. There's, it's just the craziest thing. They got stripper poles up. I mean, they go wild over there. You know what I mean? Anyway,
they love the sport. They love the sport, which I don't blame you for it. It gets everybody excited, gives them that extra buzz. They're living every minute with us there, and the fans that we do it for. It gets the sport going, and especially in America, every single type of sport while we're out there, they just go crazy for it, which, for us as players, we love it.
Let's talk about rugby. I'll be honest with you. I don't know much about the rules and everything. That's because, again, in America, I feel like the NFL did not allow it to come in, or they don't want it to come in, maybe like in some competitive regard. They're pushing the NFL. I know football really well. I've watched the Niners growing up, from Montana to Young to Garcia and so forth. But I feel like rugby is like another level of intensity, man. You guys got no pads. I barely see helmets, like soft padded helmets being worn. I mean, you guys are some tough guys. Why do you think rugby is not as popular in America, or it has not caught on, or is not here as a mainstream sport yet?
Look, I might be biased in terms of the product that we produce, but I think rugby league's the best product and the best sport in the world. There's not many people that have never watched a game, then watch a game and think, I didn't enjoy that. Even the 0-0 games are probably the best games to watch. I played in a 0-0 game, and it's the first time ever that it's happened in the league. And it will, the fans were saying it one of the best because the tackles, the hits, the try-saving runs, everything. So I think it's just the reach. We just need to get our product for people for it to be seen, for people with big money to have big ambition. We have a lot of ambition, but it's something that started up in the north of England. We're a working man's sport, and it's not really branched out since that. And we need more teams. We've got a team in France that are playing. We'd love a team. We need to make it worldwide. And when that happens, and the TV get the viewings that it needs to get, I think it can be massive. We saw it with football. Like the Premier League in football was never as big as what it is. It will, I think, the Serie A or the we're an Italian league or whatever that were the biggest, and then the Premier League broke off from that, and they've made this massive company that everybody loves to watch. And I think that the product is just as good, if not better, to be able to do that. It's just about how we push that forward, who gets in charge of and makes the decisions, because it's delicate when you're talking about business and views, and you're making your own channel there, and people are watching it. If you get things wrong, and you've probably not been on your game, and they've turned the TV on, and you're losing fans. And it's all about getting the right time, right fans, the right stadiums, filling stadiums, creating the atmosphere and experience for people to watch. But like I say, 9 times out of 10, we get it right. It's just about people seeing it that have never seen it before.
Yeah, I agree with you. I once I watched it, I said, wow, the action is kind of nonstop. I mean, it's really, it's intense. It's nonstop action. It's intense, and it's very tough. And what I love about it is like there's no downtime, right? It's almost like when you compare basketball, for example, and someone gets fouled, it slows the game down, and there's a lot. In rugby, it's just a fast pace, go. You guys are dropping and kicking the ball forward. I would love to see more of it in the US, and I would love to see it become a mainstream sport. Do you think that's going to happen in the next 5 years, 10 years, where all of the sudden these owners of the National Football League, or even some of these billionaires that own these teams, start saying, hey, we got to do something with rugby and get it over here to America on the level that the NFL is at?
I think it started, the plant is growing. They've put a seed in there with putting the NRL games and our Super League games. Like I mentioned just earlier, we played in Las Vegas at the start of this year, and it's almost to try and get them eyes on the game, to try and get Americans to watch this sport, people from around the world to watch the sport, and it worked. The viewing numbers were higher than they've ever been over here. People are watching, the stadium's full from all different, and the fans are great. So I think the seed has been planted. It's now about how do we keep evolving, evolving. And I suppose that's like anything, isn't it? In business, views, Instagram, whatever it is that you're in. It's about getting something that's worth watching that we've got. We back that 100%. Putting it on a big stage, then the team's performing on that big stage, and then people just evolving that, because we can't stay still with sport and business. You can't stay still with it. You've got to keep evolving. But I think in the next 10 years, to answer your question, I would like to see, rugby league being coached in colleges and schools in America.
That'd be incredible, man. And in America, I think they just passed the law where college kids could also get paid. Or there's like a percentage of share. So it's going to make it even more of a profession, not just like, hey, they're using the kids, making a buttload of money and selling all this memorabilia, selling all these jerseys. And now college is going to be the it. Give me your mindset with rugby, man. You're coming up against some tough guys, and they're big guys. I mean, there are some big dudes I've seen in rugby from highlights. Again, I'm not the biggest rugby fan. It's because it hasn't been mainstream here. So I can't tell you I know every single player and the best teams. I'd be lying to you. But the mindset of like going up against these guys and really like battling, bro. You're battling without pads. How's that? Like, are you ever worried, scared you're going to get injured? You going in there like, I'm going to leave it all out, or what?
I think it's a combination of all them, being scared, worried, leaving it all out there. I think to turn up with any other attitude apart from going 100% and giving it everything you've got, you will end up getting injured and you will end up getting hurt. There are techniques and ways to, use our body and use my skills to my advantage of being a little bit smaller, a little bit faster, a little bit fitter than the big guys that you're talking about. But it's dangerous, boxers, when they get in a ring, they know there's a chance of them getting knocked out. When we get on a pitch, there's a chance of us getting injured. I think that adds to the excitement. It adds to the adrenaline. There's a lot of players and staff and people who watch the game that have come from a whole load of different backgrounds. I love that side of it, that you're meeting loads of different people all the time from different backgrounds. You've all got this common goal to then go and play rugby league. And it's all different mindsets. The way I think about it is I've got to leave it all out there, or there's a possibility of me getting injured. I've got to be ultimately prepared. I've got to be the fittest I can be, the strongest I can be to protect my body. I've got to be in the right mindset of wanting to do it to the best of my ability and full on, because like I say, if you don't do that, there's a chance you're getting hurt.
Who are some of the fiercest, like, what is one player you go out there, and I know you may not want to put him on like the pedestal or whatever, you know what I mean? But like, are there players that, like, okay, in basketball, you go up against, say, back in the day, Michael Jordan, you're like, dude, I'm worried. Maybe today's generation, it's Jokic or LeBron or whoever, out there. But even though basketball's kind of, they can't fight, in my opinion. They're can't swing, and they're not as tough if you see the flops, right? I compared, what's funny is if you look at like LeBron flopping or any of these other professional basketball players flopping and getting hit in the head, and then you compare your sport or an MMA fight, I'm like, dude, how does somebody fall down from a slap and lays on the ground from 15, 20 minutes before they get up? It's insane. But who are some of the players in rugby you go, man, this guy I got to watch out for him. He's going to, crack me, or even on your team, you're like, this is our warrior, Yeah,
it's hard to single names out, but there's normally there's a forward pack, like you have it in NFL where they've got the big guys that defend and they're so powerful and so strong and so big and so heavy. Mm-hmm. It's almost unfair that these guys are so fast, so agile, but so heavy as well. So our forward pack is normally the deciding factor really on whether, you know, you're going to wear a team down, you're going to impose your physical presence on that team through fitness, through strength, through battering down the front door, and then you go to the edges and then we score through the fast guys and the more flashier guys. So you're normally just worried about their middle because you know it's going to be aggressive. They're going to be trying to physically impose themselves on you as a team because they know that's where the majority of the battle of the game is won. But you've got to have a warrior mindset when you're going out there because, like I say, it's dangerous. There's a possibility you're getting hurt. You're probably not wired up like that as a human being to run towards danger. And we know that's the only way to go to stay safe, really. If you back out or you dip your toe, as we call it, and you don't hit it head on 100%, there's a chance if you're pulling out of tackles and you're not quite throwing your body in at certain levels and, you know, you end up... It's all different to what you've been taught as a child growing up. You know, you run from danger. You see something that's going to hurt you. You try and escape. You try and run away. Whereas it's hard to program your mind to the other way of going towards it and trying to nullify that by stopping it before it gets too big of a fire. And the only way to do that is to impose yourself on them before they do it on you. So it's a different type of mindset, but it's one that if you can conquer, and it's one that can help you in all aspects of life, I believe.
I love it. And it to your point, it sounds like the forward team is like goes in the trenches. They're the ones that are battling nonstop, pushing and imposing the movement on the team. And the outside of rugby players are the ones that are going to make the high level play or the fast play in some regard. And then, you know, you're saying that if you go into any type of match and you're holding back, you're going to get run through. And it's no different in rugby. It sounds like you're not going to hold back in an MMA fight, or you're going to get taken out. You're not going to hold back in rugby, or they're going to have their way with you. Right.
Yeah. And, you know, it's about, sometimes it's about getting to them before they get to you. There is going to be a breakage in a team, in a player. There is going to be that. It's how far you're willing to go and how far are you willing to push back at them before, you know. And sometimes I've been in games where you're thinking, wow, we've broke that team. But if they'd have hung in there for an extra 2 minutes, they'd have probably broken us. So, and majority of the time, this is the honest truth, and I don't know about other players, but all of us to some degree are probably running off a lot of fear as well. You know, fear of getting hurt and fear of making errors and fear of letting our teammates down. We're probably running off a high percentage of that, and you'll know everybody's been scared in their life before. When you're running on fear, you can almost do things that your body or your mind thought wasn't possible in a normal state. And that's the most pleasing and rewarding thing, is when you finish a game and you sat in the showers, your body's beaten up, your mates are beaten up, there's blood and people, you know, there's people injured, and you get in that changing room after and you've just been to battle. It's a very satisfying feeling knowing you've come through the other side winning, and that's probably what the addiction is and keeps you going forward and doing that, because you've got to take your mind and your body to a darkness that in normal day-to-day life you probably don't ever access. And then to take yourself to that darkness, you've got the fear and the doubt and if we're going to manage to do it. And then when you actually come through the other side of it, it's a very liberating feeling that you can't buy that. You can't share that. You know, there's games where you win and you've not played, like, as in me personally, I've not played and I've been injured or whatever, the team wins. And even though you've won with the team and you sat with the team, you know you're part of it, you've not been to that dark place in your head, and you've not been scared. Your body's not battered, and you almost feel like you can't be a part of the win. And that's the only way I can sort of describe the addiction of keeping on doing it, because people say, why do you do that or whatever? And then there's obviously the money side of it and financial that's nice as well.
We should talk about that side too. And I noticed you're wearing a nice watch, so obviously the pay is there. Daytona is a good piece, and it is a Daytona you got on, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a Daytona.
Yeah. And let me ask you: are rugby players well compensated? On average, I guess to some of the other athletes in these leagues, or is the compensation still coming up, kind of evolving?
Yeah, I think like we mentioned before, the more eyes we got on the game, the more. But our sport is capped, so the teams are only allowed to spend so much money on their team or roster, as you'd call it. Whereas in other sports, there's no cap on that, so you can pay. Cap. Yeah, you can pay people whatever you want. So that's what's keeping the payment of players down. But they've done that to try and allow other teams that are not financially backed by huge backers to compete within the sport, to make the sport a more level playing field. So it's better for viewers to watch. More exciting.
Yeah.
Because then people aren't just going to turn it on and think, oh, they're going to beat them or they're going to beat them. But I think to get to where we want to get to as a sport, we need to increase and keep increasing the cap, and then hopefully one day get rid of it altogether.
Yeah, they have the cap in like basketball, but they always go over and pay the luxury tax and so forth. Like Stephen Curry and the Warriors, for example, here the basketball team they over the cap every year and they pay so much in tax. But I think the cap is not a bad thing for the fans. It's just not. I do think it needs to raise to get the players, because in your sport, there's a higher risk of injury and a higher risk of a career end, so to speak. And God forbid that happens to anybody. But I've seen some of these hits. There's no basketball player getting hit like that, and getting knocked out. So they're flopping out there. Let me ask you a question. With your teammates, how sound are the Wigan Warriors? Like, how is it a brotherhood? Are you guys all got each other's back? Are there times where being a teammate of another teammate a difficult thing and it's a job you have to remind yourself, or what's the environment of a team like? How is your team environment?
Well, to your first question of how the environment is of a team, it depends on what team you're in. I'm in a really successful team in Wigan, and I think we have to pay most of our success and credit to as culture, because without every team, you'll know in business, every business has got the certain KPIs and the things that they put on a board for what they want to achieve, but there's only certain businesses that do it, certain teams that do it. And the reason for that is, in my opinion, is how hard you're willing to work for what you're not getting paid for, almost. How, the connections that you're not expected to have, wearing at training for 5-6 hours a day. And it's that what you're doing on the days, the hours that you don't have to be there. And are you going for coffees with the lads? Are you helping each other? Are you giving each other lifts? Are you ringing each other? And are you actually friends, or are you just work colleagues? And for me, Wigan have got that perfect. And we've got so many different backgrounds, so many different players that have had different upbringings. But we are very close as a team. And I think that's the ingredient that not all teams get. And that's the ingredient that's got us the success that we've got. The culture there at Wigan is very, very highly sought after by every other team, and I think it's very high on our list of priorities also.
How did you get to Wigan from where you were born? I know you were born in Eswatini, is that correct?
Yeah, Eswatini was called Swaziland before it's just been changed, its name in the last 2 years. But yeah, I was born over there and came to England when I was 4 years old. My dad's fully British, my mum's fully African. And I picked up rugby league at 10, 11 years old, and then I've just worked my way through, started at Huddersfield, went to Leeds Rhinos, then went to Gold Coast in Australia. Then I've come back and signed at Wigan for 4 years.
What's your favorite part? Did you like living in Australia, or where was, are you happy to be back in England, or what?
Both. To answer that, it's both. I loved living in Australia. It was a time in my life where I needed to get out of my comfort zone. I needed to go away, drop myself somewhere where nobody knew who I was. I had no family there, no friends there, and really do some reflecting and being on my own, something that I'd not done for a long time. So I went over there with an open mind, which I always have, and loved it. I loved the person it made me. Not that I went and found myself or anything like that, but I learned a lot about myself. From being alone and being sat with your own thoughts, you find out a lot of why you're thinking certain things, why you're feeling certain things that you probably thought you'd moved on from, that you haven't, things that you didn't know were an insecurity of yours or wherever, these things that I think sitting in silence on your own can answer a lot of questions about yourself that you have. And I had to do that a lot in Australia, so I enjoyed it. And coming back to England, I love England. I love my family that I've got here. I love my support network and my community. So coming back wasn't an issue either. I could have stayed there for 5 years. I could have come back when I came back. Very positive outlook on both, and I really enjoyed it.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it's something to be said about one, going to a place you don't know and developing yourself mentally and realizing that you alone are okay, at developing that, because that's such a scare. A lot of people are always so scared, like, what if I'm alone? What if this happens? Or what if that happens? And really polishing your mind to being okay being alone, I think is such an important aspect for a man to grow up. And I've had those stages in life too, so I can relate where I'm like, you know what, this development is an important part of who you are, what you want to be, and where you want to be, and what you want in life. I think all these distractions, especially for you, possibly because you're well known in this field of rugby, where getting away may be such a cleanse almost. You know what I mean? It's
distractions.
Nice.
That's distractions. That is a massive word that I've realized in the last year or two. There's just so many distractions that take away your focus on what is important in life, and it almost sucks the beauty out of things because you can switch your mind and go to something else so quickly. I've taken I don't watch TV Monday to Friday. I try to stay off social media for so long, and picking up a book and just reading a book that normally I'd have been like, that's boring now, I'll move on to the next thing. Picking up a book and reading a book when you sat in boredom for a little bit is the best thing in the world to read. And these little things like that. I want to learn how to play an instrument. And I think being bored and searching for boredom at some point in the day or some point in your life is a good thing that especially me, that I moved so far away from. And then what ends up happening, or what's happened for me, is when you're searching for that boredom, you end up finding the beauty in the small things in life that actually can't be taken away from you. They can't take my book subscription away from me. Like, I've got them books forever. I can read them forever. So I think it's really important to search for boredom in your life.
I love that. Yeah, reading is something that is undervalued nowadays with the distractions you mentioned, which is the social media and the constant scrolling that people do. I think it's crazy. All right, let's get back to the NRL, man. when you first made it to the NRL and you mentioned you were young, what was that feeling like, man? Do you even remember it?
So the Super League, what we played in the NRL is the league when I went to play in Australia. Is it? So when I first started playing, I was in the Super League and I was 17 years old when I made my debut, so very young. I can remember feeling like I wasn't going to survive. I can remember just thinking, I was playing against blokes. First of all, I can remember thinking in my first game that, I'm 17, I'm playing against blokes that are 30, 31, 32. They've been playing the game for, 10, 15 years. Surely when I come on the field, they're going to look after me. They're not going to, want to take my head off. Oh, how wrong I were. I was so wrong. They targeted me. It was a baptism of fire. They made sure that I knew I was in the Super League now and it's time for you to grow up. And I can remember just being on the field 1 or 2 minutes, my heart feeling like it were beating out of my chest. I could taste blood because of the game was so fast. And literally, I'd been training for this game for years and I'd been on the field. I'm telling no word of a lie, 2 minutes and I could taste blood. I felt my heart were going to beat out of my chest. I've almost looked over to the bench a couple of times, as into our staff, to say, I don't know if I can carry on doing this. Like, I'm going to have to maybe go off. This is not. Before you know it, you're in another tackle. You have another look at the clock, and you're thinking, wow, there's 5 minutes gone, there's 15 left. And I'm thinking, I don't know if I can get 5 minutes. Has been so torturous. I don't know if I can get through the last 15. Then you're in another tackle, then a ball gets kicked, you get in the kick chase line, then you're in another tackle. And all of a sudden the whistle goes and you've played your first game and it's, you've been on the field for 20, 25 minutes and you've got through it. And then the exhilaration of completing it, getting through it, getting through the other side of that dark point that we spoke about earlier, is almost like a high that you just want to last forever. And I can see why top level athletes struggle after playing, because that high after playing a big game or playing your debut or whatever, when you've experienced that, there's nothing like it. And I scored within my first touch of going on the field. I was just in the right place at the right time. I've ran on the field and literally a ball, somebody's dropped a ball, my guys picked it up, I've just been supporting because I've been full of beans, come off, and I just ended up scoring. I looked back at the referee and I thought, there's no way that this try is going to get given. Like, there's going to be an obstruction somewhere. And he just put his whistle to his mouth. Try, and I said, wow. And then, like I said, the whole cycle started of, my heart beating out of my chest. And I can remember sat in the changing rooms after that thinking, that is the best experience I've ever had in my whole entire life. That sense of accomplishment. And it's such a strange feeling because you've got that sense of accomplishment, that sense of, wow, I've done it. I've made everyone proud. I've not let anybody down. I've got through it. But then very quickly after that, within, I'm saying 2 days, 3 days, the place that you got to get through the other side, like I'm saying, tasting the blood and just thinking, I don't know if I can complete this, very quickly starts to set back in of, I'm going to have to do this again.
Oh, wow.
And
so the fear comes back for the first few games, for the first few years, or what?
I still feel that fear now, but the difference is with the fear, through my career it shifts. So for the start of it was, am I going to be able to complete the minutes that I'm given? Like, am I fit enough to get through that without collapsing, basically? Mm-hmm. Then you start to realize, and you start to play 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and you start to play 50 minutes. You're getting more trust now, 60 minutes, 70 minutes, 80 minutes, play a full game. Then after that, you might go back down to 60 minutes, 70 minutes. But you can complete a full game. Your body has actually done it before, so you know that is a possibility. You're not going to die. Mm-hmm. And then the fear starts to shift from then, can I survive? Which is, yes, I can. And then it shifts to, right, now I don't want to let anybody down now. So now it shifts. The next part of your career is, I need to make my tackles. I need to be good. You know, I'm taking somebody's position, so I need to prove that I can keep hold of this position and not. I need to be consistent. I need to be reliable. I don't want to let anyone down. So then a large part of your career goes to that, and then the fear shifts again to, you know, you start getting paid more money. You start being more of a name. You start being more well known. Then your fear shifts to, right, now I'm being paid more, I'm more of a name. Now I need to start producing better performances. It's not just about surviving or not letting anyone down. Now I need to start being, you know, one of the household names. I want to start creating things, and then the fear shifts to that. The pressure, you get more of pressure. People expect more. The expectation goes up. So the fear has felt the same in my stomach every time I run out of that tunnel. The fear in my stomach, the feeling, if I could bottle it up and give it you, it would probably taste the same, but it's just changed in where I'm getting the fear from. So yeah, that's never gone for me.
I love that. It sounds like it developed from when you were at Super Leagues and the Huddersfield Giants to the NRL now, and it seems like the fear develops because now you are trying to maintain and trying to remain on top and remain in the position that you're in, getting challenged for your position by younger lads or younger players. And now the pressure is different, right? It's like a different pressure. It's no longer the pressure of, do I belong? It's like, how do I stay and belong, right? That's incredible, man. But you know, it sounds like it drives you. I think you love conquering it. From what I'm getting, it's something that you love conquering, and it's something that keeps you going to battle this down and to remain on top. And that's incredible.
I think like on that, I think the reason why I do enjoy it so much is it's the quickest. When you do hard things, for me, I think as people, we should search for hard things. We're on about searching for boredom, but I think we should search for hard things to do in this life, because you either get forced into doing hard things or you choose the hard things you want to go through to better your life. I think that's just the way the world works. And after every hard experience I've had, I've grown as a person. Every time I've stepped out of my comfort zone, however horrible that's been at the time, the bigger picture has looked so much better to me after doing that, and I've grown as a person. And doing hard things is, I think, the window to see yourself exactly as you are. We all can say, I'd do this in that situation, and I'll do this, and I'm brave, and oh, I wouldn't have done that. And we sit on his high horse sometimes. We judge other people for doing certain things, and you know, I've been guilty of that before. But it's like, when you're put in that situation, then we'll see what you're about. Then we'll see what you're made of. You know, I hear players speak about other players or fans or whatever, and they say, oh, why has he done this? He should have done that. Or why? And I think normally the people that give other people criticism or talk negatively about other players, it's because they've not done many hard things in their life, and then they can't relate to how difficult some things are in some circumstances. And that's why I like doing hard things, because it puts in perspective what other people are going through in their life. It takes the judgment away from me judging other characters for what they're going through, because everybody's got a story. Everybody's doing things hard. Everyone's had upbringing that have shaped the way that they are. And that's why I like putting myself through difficult tasks, not because it's because I want to see exactly who I am, and it's a window to. It removes every mask. When somebody's scared, this courage is not the absence of fear. It's having the fear there and doing it anyway. And everyone's got. It's how you act and react in them situations, and that's why I love doing hard things. And it's not always rugby either. Sometimes it's conversations. Sometimes it's diet. Sometimes it's physical activities, but every time, sometimes it's loss of family, loss of friends. Every time I've gone through something hard in my life, it's been for the better.
I love that. Yeah, hard times shape you and make you better. And to your point, challenging yourself out of the comfort zone, whether it's conversation, whether it's a match, or whether it's a new experience. Even you mentioned earlier going to Australia. I think that was a big one part of your life where you're out of that comfort zone. There's no one you could turn to that's right there, and you gotta reshape your mind and tell yourself it's going to be okay, right? That's a big one. I think a lot of people don't know how to do that, where they go, hey, it's going to be fine. We're going to move on, or I'm going to move on, right? Like, not everyone's got your back at all times. And as a man, I think it's so important to shape that strength mentally to overcome anything. Let's talk a little bit about some of your career journey. Do you have aspirations to play in the World Cup or any major international tournaments in the future? Have you played in any international tournaments? I apologize. I don't know, as again, we don't get too much broadcasted here in the States, but maybe you could answer that. And how does it work?
No, listen, you don't need to apologize. It's fine. I think in terms of my aspirations, I'm a young lad that's English. I want to represent my country, which I have done before a couple of years ago. So I want to do that again. A World Cup would be a great stage to do it, but every time I pull on that jersey to play for England, I'm very proud, and my family are very proud. So to get back on that stage would be definitely an ambition of mine. And just to keep playing good rugby, to keep playing and training within the standards that I set for myself, no one else, I think is a win for me. It's a win for me. So just to keep doing that and keep moving forward in the world of rugby league is an ambition of mine.
I love that. Let me ask you, I've seen a few. Like, listen, man, I'm a small guy, and I'm not the strongest guy, et cetera. A dad of 3, and just a dad. So I've seen some of these, like, I think they're called, I'm going to say it wrong. They're basically chants that they do. It's almost like a Hawaiian or...
the haka.
Haka, there you go. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, the haka chants. Does that intimidate you at all? Do you see that coming across? I've seen them. I've seen a few teams. They come in with that haka chant, and then obviously they've lost the game or whatever in some of the YouTube matches that I watched. What do you think about that? I mean, is it intimidating? Is it, you're like, hey, I don't care what you're yelling, I'm going to come in and play? Or how does that feel on the opposite side? Have you ever had one?
Yeah, I have. It's strange. It's a strange experience because every time I've watched it while I'm not playing, I've got so much respect for it and so much. I get where it's coming from. The admiration that it's a war dance, basically. Mm-hmm. It's them getting themselves ready for war. It's just like us singing our national anthem. They're getting ready to go into battle, basically. Mm-hmm. And when you're watching it on a TV screen or watching it in a stadium, the atmosphere is unbelievable. When you're playing against it, there's almost you've got to have a healthy disrespect for it, and because they're getting ready to fight a war basically, and you've got to stand there, and then the thing to do is then to reply to their war chant. They're basically saying they're going to kill us, and then we've got to say, okay, we've got a job to do and we've got to go out there and do that. So you've got to have a healthy disrespect for it, but it's very intimidating in some factors, and it does its job, but it's also the most alive I've felt before a game, accepting that haka and then saying, right, okay, it's our turn now to respond to that is very, very, very exhilarating and makes you feel really alive.
Oh man, so a healthy disrespect. I love that saying that you just did, man, because you know what? just looking at it on TV, I mean, being there in the moment, it's probably completely different. It is a war. It's almost like a Braveheart movie where he's getting the battle ready, or getting his troops into the battle. I'm sure you've seen that movie with Mel Gibson. But that's an interesting point you mentioned, that it actually also brings out a warrior in you, because you're like, holy shit, these guys are ready. They're coming in, and I better get ready. Like, this is going to be a war. So it wakes up both sides. It doesn't just wake up the people doing the haka. That's intense. That's so true. I think, it's the closest thing to modern day warriors that, in my opinion, you're going to get, as a team. The UFC fighters go through it as in physically, individually, but as a team where they're doing the haka in front of you, and then you've got to go into physical combat and physical battle. It's a war of attrition. It's probably the closest thing any modern day man is going to feel to a warrior, really. You guys go through such physical strain in that time frame of a game. I'll ask how you prepare for it later and keep your body in shape, because that's so important, right? To not get injured, to be flexible, etc. How does the post game look like for a professional team? You guys ice bathing? Are there people like, what is the routine like to prepare you for the next game? So we play Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday during the day, or Sunday during the day. Okay. Once a week? Once a week. Yeah, okay. So if we play on a Friday night, which typically at Wigan we do, we will go home after the game, because it'll be 10, 11 o'clock when the game's finished. We'll go home, we'll try and eat a decent amount, and then we'll wake up in the morning, and then we'll have our recovery session, and that could be swimming, into ice baths, into sauna, into stretching, and that's probably what we will do. Well, that's what we do the day after. So it is important. It is massively important, because it's not about recovering from the game you've just had. It's about getting ready for the game that's coming. So you need that window after performing. It needs to be spot on and right, because if you don't get that right, and the inflammation in your body and the niggles that you're carrying, the knocks, if you're carrying them through, you're going to break down during the season, and it's going to be tough for you to perform at your best. I imagine in the locker room as well, like, do you do this at home, or in the locker rooms they have you come in and it's like a state-of-the-art facility? You mentioned, like, let's say Las Vegas had a crazy one. I'm not sure how your facility looks, but do you guys have state-of-the-art equipment? Like, is it... Yeah, we'll go into Wigan Training Centre, or we'll go to Total Fitness next, a gym that we've got a partnership with, and it's got everything from pools to ice baths to saunas to stretch rooms and stuff like that. So yeah, we get looked after very well. Do you get stopped on the street by fans sometimes, or by England? Is a fun place. I've been once. Are they crazy fans out there, or how do your reactions happen? The fans are great, more so around Wigan, where the club is. There's a lot of fans, and obviously on games we're getting stopped for autographs and things like that. More out of Wigan and abroad, especially not in England, we won't get stopped that much. So it's a good balance, I think. Sometimes I see footballers that everywhere they go, they're getting mobbed by fans all the time. I don't know if I'd like that, but it's healthy. You can go out of certain areas and not get noticed that much, but then obviously get the best part of seeing the fans, giving back, signing things, talking to the real fans and Wigan fans. So I enjoy it. I enjoy the interaction. Rugby league fans, in my opinion, are the best fans across the whole sport, not just Wigan. I'm saying across the whole of the Super League. You can put fans together, they can walk together, they can chant, and there's no trouble, there's no fighting. There's, it's very healthy. It's a family sport. There's girls, there's young lads, there's old men, there's old women. So it's got a mixture of fans and fan base, and it's great because
everyone can go together without having problems, which I think that's how sport should be. It's an entertainment sport, and people should leave happy.
You know what? That's so important, because that's not the way it is with the Raiders. I'm going to tell you right now, especially in Oakland. I mean, you got fights going on. You've got, it's crazy out there. And I'm glad to hear rugby, like the fans, will they clash in stadiums, or are they like, this is more professional, respectful?
Yeah, they obviously chant across the stadiums the different songs, and they'll be getting into each other. But there's never any trouble when they leave next to each other, or even if they're sat next to each other. We actually have a fixture in the Super League season that's like a magic round, and every single game is held at the same stadium. So you buy a ticket, and you can sit there and watch games all day. So it's called the magic round. And obviously for that, the stadium is full with different sets of fans everywhere. And it's the best day in one of the best days in the Super League calendar. And there's never been any trouble. The fans love it. They want to go back. It's always full. So I think it's brilliant. How many other sports could you do that in?
None. I'd never even heard of it. That's incredible, because it really combines a community of all sorts of people. And I think that's incredible. And then I'm not sure, I have some notes, but have you made the All-Stars before? Or
yes.
You have. How is that like, man? Is it like how did that feel personally?
It's great, because when you represent the All-Stars, you actually represent another heritage or another part. And for most of my rugby league career, I've been representing England. I've been representing my father's side of the family. Whereas when I represented the All-Stars, they put our other heritage badge on the kit for specific people. So I had my 𝐒𝐤𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿𝐼 flag on my kit. So I actually represented my mother's side of the family. And for her to see me do that and to put Swaziland on the map, that's a country that's landlocked by South Africa. It's got its own monarchy. It's a tiny country with a tiny population. There's some poverty there. So her to see her flag being on the biggest stage of Sky Sports, and it's a very proud moment for me to put where I was born on the map as well. And to every time I hear it mentioned, and for you to speak about it, I feel good that I've done something to help my country. It's a massive thing to me, is helping people that are less fortunate, and I feel almost lucky to get out of certain situations in my life to now be in a situation where I can help people. And it's really important to me to be able to show what you can achieve. And I think for me to represent the All-Stars on one of the biggest stages was really humbling, and I'm really proud of that, to be honest.
When you went to the game, did you have that same kind of butterfly, kind of that stomach, heart feeling that you have when you were 17, or was it a different experience?
It's very, very similar. The only difference is my heart doesn't beat out of my chest, and my lungs don't feel like I'm off. I used to taste blood when I was younger, because I just think my body was actually
preparing
a level where it was out of its depth back then at 17, whereas now it's different, to the point where the nerves and everything there, but physically my body can actually do what it's meant to do. Whereas I think at 17 years old, I was stretching to limits there. So it's a different type of fear, but it's still there. And especially the big games for All-Stars against England and stuff was a massive game.
Let me ask you, with Wigan, who is the funniest guy in the locker room that you want to shout out?
Liam Marshall.
And why? Why is he the funniest? Just joking or what?
The guy just doesn't quit. He doesn't stop. He'll say 1,000 jokes in space of an hour. He'll just carry on going. If he gets laughs or not laughs, he hates silence, that guy. He just can't have any silence in the room, and he's just constantly on it. And sometimes you are shut up, and then sometimes it's absolutely brilliant. You need people like that, because when you go to that dark place that we're talking about, or you go on a camp, sometimes we do army camps and things for fitness. Them guys, he's invaluable, and he's such a great guy as well. And for him to just be on it like that every day, it's admirable. I love spending time with him because he's hilarious.
Do you guys go to the pub ever together, or is he like too much to go to the pub with?
No, we've had drinks together. It's crazy because I've met these guys before that are so full of it, but when they're sober, where I don't drink, but when he's sober, he's so full of it. When he's drinking, he seems to be less. They seem to go quieter. It's like the opposite effect with these guys. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's interesting because you're a professional athlete. Drinking probably sets you back, and you guys can't afford to do that. Are there some guys on the team that don't give a damn? They'll drink a bunch of beers, or they all kind of have to watch their consumption of alcohol?
Yeah, I think we all watch what times have changed. I think rugby league being a working man's game, back in the day, it was heavily backed by alcohol and drink. Now the game's just got so advanced and is so, with sports science coming in and nutritionists and things like that and recovery and what the game takes out of your body now, we just can't get away with it. Don't get me wrong, there is still a culture there where after a good win, we all enjoy to go out and celebrate, but it's very few and far between. But when we do go, it's like anything else. You can't dip your toe in the game. You need to go 100% or you're going to get hurt. And we adopt that when we're drinking, and we all have a good drink as well.
I love it. And you probably sit next to Liam. That's the guy of the night to crack the jokes, unless he's having too many. How do you, how do you keep your body, like what's your workout routine looking like nowadays? Are you working out 5 days a week to keep yourself fit, ready for whatever is to come? Are you lifting heavy with your sport? Strength is a demand in some regards as a part of it. What's your routine looking like nowadays?
Okay, so I go through peaks and troughs in the season. The first part of the season before the games start, we call that pre-season, and we're lifting heavy. We're running and lifting heavy. We're almost taking his body to breaking point. We're wrestling, we're lifting, we're running, we're wrestling, we're lifting, we're running. We're doing that for a long period of time. It might be 6 days a week. And then as the season starts, we start to taper back. We do that first bit. So we make his bodies robust and ready for the games ahead, because we know if you train harder than the games are going to be, obviously you want the games to feel as easy as they possibly can. And if you've undertrained, you're going to be susceptible to injury. You're going to be susceptible to, knocks. Your body ain't going to be right. So there's that phase. Then the games start and you're trying to almost maintain that level of training that you've trained with, but not taking your body to breaking point, because the breaking point is the game, really. Whereas if in pre-season where there's no games, you can train as hard as you want. 'Cause if you wake up sore on a Friday night, or you wake up sore on a Friday morning, you know that you're not playing that night, so it's fine. Whereas when the games come around, if you wake up sore on a Friday morning and you've got a game on a Friday night, you've overdone it. You've trained too hard. So the sets and reps will pull back a little bit, but the intensity is always up there. And then you go through that period of maintaining it for probably the first 3 quarters of the season. And then towards the back end of the year, where the finals are starting to be played, your body's battle hardened because you've played 20 odd games. You're definitely fit enough because you've played 20 odd games and been training so hard. Then for me personally as a player, it's about freshness then. I'm not going to get fitter or stronger in the last 2 or 3, 4 weeks of a season. It's already been done. If I'm trying to train to get fitter, stronger or faster in the last 4 or 5 weeks of a season,
too late.
It's too late. I've messed something up somewhere. I'm playing catch up. Whereas through the year and using pre-season, I've got my body to a place where now it's about what do I like and what feels nice for me to do. So then I'm enjoying it. I feel nice. I feel good. I'm not sore. I'm not doing anything I don't want to do. And then for that last 5, 6 games, I can just concentrate on performance. And that looks like, okay, so we're tapering back on the weights, we're tapering back on the running, but I can still use that time. I don't like to taper back on things and then just go home. I will then start to incorporate more stretching, more nice things to do. I call them the nice things because you don't have to get sweaty, you don't have to get to that dark place in your head, you don't have to get beaten up. They're nice, little touching bits of sprint work, like 10 minutes, touching bits of skill, touching bits of stretching, saunas, concentrating on recovery, ice baths, a bit of swimming, all the nice things. I like to up that. So then I go to the back end feeling great. And a big one for me, Simon, like something that as I've got older in my career is such a big thing for me is it's okay staying loose in the body, which is massive. You need to stay loose to prevent injury and you don't want to pull muscles, but staying loose in your mind as well is a big one for me. And I think a lot of players, especially younger players, I used to do it. I'm talking about myself. Is I used to play the game in my mind 4 times before I'd even got to the stadium. And then by the time I'd got to the stadium, I was worn out. I were drained, and that is actually a thing, to be physically, mentally drained from playing the game constantly.
So when you were playing, and let's talk about that a little bit. When you play this game in your mind, a lot of people say, hey, you got to visualize you winning, scoring the goal, whatever, making the key play. But you were overdoing it, it sounds like, and you were exhausting yourself from it and kind of taking a step back almost, right?
Yeah, I were almost going through the scenarios that you go through, the good scenarios, then you go through what could go wrong, then you go through, right, what do I do to fix that? And then I fixed it, but then what if that happens? And then I was going through all that in my mind. By the time I got to game, I were almost exhausted. I played the game left, right, upwards, downwards, backwards and forwards, all different angles, all different speeds in my mind. Whereas now, what I'm talking about, staying loose, I stay really fluid and loose in my mind. And if I get a thought, I don't hang on to it like, oh, this could go. It's just a passing thought. I watch it, let it go. And I just move forward with my day-to-day, try to stay present. When I'm in the house, I'm worrying about, sometimes I feel my mind like wandering towards the game and I bring it back to, what am I eating? What does it taste like? What's on TV? Getting ready for the game. Have I drank my water? What's my water taste like? Say hello to somebody. If you listen to the reply. Whereas some days when there's a big game, I'll be speaking to my missus and she could have spoke to me for an hour and I couldn't tell you one thing she said.
I think you share that with a lot of men, whether they're not playing in the big game, man. It's an anxiety thing. And I was reading this book, Stop Overthinking It. Maybe I don't know if you read it or not, but it's an interesting book where it does some of the points you mentioned rang a bell. Where you touch something to come back, and like, what does that touch feel like? What does it taste? What am I tasting right now? Just to bring yourself back into where you are, there you are kind of reality, not escape it. But do you do positive affirmations? Like, do you visualize yourself? Like, do you want to do a little bit of like visualizing a win or any of that before a game or post game?
It's crazy because normally when I dream about the sport, they're always good dreams. There's something amazing's happened. And then I wake up and I think, what a dream. And it's normally about the game that's coming. So you could almost say that that's visualization. So I do get it in that way, but normally my conscious thoughts when I'm awake and I'm thinking of the game, they're probably worries.
I agree. You know what? It's not just in the game, man. It's in life. I think is like that for a lot of people in life. It's like whether you're moving, whether you're getting a new job, a breakup, a wedding, or whatever. It's kind of like you start overthinking it. Like you're like, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if it doesn't go right? And then all of a sudden you're so exhausted. It's probably more exhausting than one of the harder trainings that you have to do in the beginning pre-season.
Well, This is another thing as well. We suffer more in our minds than we've ever suffered in reality. And when I think about that, it's so true. I can't actually remember the last time I've suffered in reality as much as what I'd suffered in my mind. Even if something goes wrong or you know something's going wrong, in your mind, you've played it through so many times thinking, oh my God, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And either it doesn't happen, so you've worried about it, or it happens and it was nowhere near as bad as what you thought it was going to be. So once I realised that I'm suffering more in my mind than what happens in reality anyway, that's what I'm talking about staying loose and evolving as a player and getting older. That's just life and experience. You start to realise that if it's not happened yet and I can't touch it and feel it, then I'm not going to worry about it. And obviously it's tough. It's hard to do that all the time, but that's where I'm at in my life of thinking, or hitting it head on. Sometimes we skirt around the problem and think, I can't mention that or I can't say that. And then it creates more self-doubt and more, just go and have the conversation with the person or just go and see what the problem is. And then when you've done that, you feel loads better afterwards anyway.
I love that. Yeah, it's overthinking and just worrying twice, right? Like you're worrying before it even happened, and then it happens, you're worrying again if it happens, right? So it's kind of crazy, and it's a constant battle. Even for me, it goes with everything. It's not just professional sports; it's life. And I'm glad you're beating that down. And advice to the listeners: be in the moment, touch something, feel something, pick something, and the details of that something really will reset your mind to be present in that area. Let's ask. Let me ask this question: if you wasn't playing for the Wigan Warriors, what would you be doing? Or if you weren't even a professional athlete, what do you think you'd be doing?
I've actually started working with businesses and individuals about coaching, a little bit of life coaching or whatever you want to call it. I love to help people. I like to add value. I think the experience I've had in such a short lifespan, I'm 29 years old, but the things that we've spoke about and touched on a little bit about what's going on in my mind, what the feelings are in my body, as you've said, are so transferable between not just high-level sport, but high-level business, living a high-quality life, whether that's fitness in sport or fitness in life, mentally and physically. It's both needed. Mm-hmm. I've been captains of clubs that have been successful. I've been captains of clubs that have not been successful. I've been in a high-performing team. I've been in low-performing teams. And they've all been part of my makeup as a person and have given me accelerated my experience in terms of that. So I'd like to think that I would be helping people. And like I say, I'm doing bits and bats of it now and really enjoying it. Having conversations like this the deep conversations in life are what actually get me out of bed and make me want to wake up and speak to different people. The surface level stuff for me is a little bit, I know it's needed in some forms when you don't know people, but yeah, I don't get much out of surface level stuff. So that's what I'd like to have done.
Good for you, man. Yeah, and you got a good platform to do that. I think I love the fact that you're thinking about, you're not the only professional athlete, obviously, I've had on the podcast, but I love the fact that you're thinking beyond not just rugby, what it brings for you, but how can you use that to better yourself, to better others, and really combine the battle that's not only on the field, but also mentally within for individuals that go through things on a normal basis with the stressors that are surrounded in the world and in their daily life and in their job and their family and their love. And that'd be cool, man. I look forward to seeing you out there doing, giving the advice, and I'd be first to listen to it. Yeah.
I'd like to do a bit of acting as well. I don't know why, but it keeps pulling me back in since from being a young lad. I used to say to my mum, I want to be an actor. And I don't know where it's come from. I just really like drama at school, and I'd love to do a film. or a little part.
What kind of acting? What drama, comedy?
Anything, anything. Just a bit of acting, just to see what it's like. I love drama. I love getting out of my comfort zone, and I think it'd be a good laugh, and it'd be something that I could say I've always done it. I've been in a film. I'd love to do that.
You better. How would you get into that? Are you gonna get an agent? What's the next plan for that?
I don't have a clue. If you've got anybody who can give me any advice on it, let me know. But I don't know how to do it.
Here's what I've been using. The best advice I could give in terms of what's changed my life with any decision I've been making lately. It sounds crazy. I've been using ChatGPT. I put in everything hey, I'm a professional football player. I've always had a passion for acting. I'm based in this location. What are the top agents that could get me an acting role? And you ask ChatGPT all these things and you go as detailed as possible. And my God, it'll spit out the top agents. It'll spit out who you should contact. You could even ask it to create you a game plan. And for me, it's been revolutionary with not only podcasts, not only dealing with difficult situations, because you mentioned earlier you were by yourself and you had no answers, and the internet back then wasn't probably what it was today, and every year it changes. But now with AI and I think ChatGPT and some of these other Notebook LM, you should review these things. You may not have heard of it, but you put in your problem or what you want to do, and just ask it to come out with a solution. I'm curious if you do this or not. Just report back to me. But it'll tell you, dude. It'll tell you, here's who you should contact. Here are the biggest studios. And you know what? It may lead to you in an acting role. You never know. You got a name out there, so.
That'd be great. Yeah, good call. I'll do that and let you know how it goes. Or I might be out there filming one day and we'll meet up.
Dude, crazy. You're always welcome in the Bay Area or even in South Florida, where I'm planning to also set up shop now. So right now we're in the Bay Area, which is the San Francisco area. And then South Florida is the Miami area, where we may eventually build a studio as well and just keep this going just for the fun of it, I always ask all my guests, and you're no different, Kruise. So let's ask, if you could go back in time. I know I'm 42, so you're a young lad in my opinion. If you could go back in time, tell yourself a little bit of advice, what would that be and why?
What a question. If I could go back and tell myself a little bit of advice, what would it be? I'd say it doesn't matter. You're playing with the house's money. The only things that are important in life are your security, your peace, your happiness, and it's all within you anyway. There's no any external factors. You can't outsource your happiness. You can't outsource your security. You can't outsource your peace. It's all in there. So once you realize that nothing really matters and it's all an illusion anyway, you think, when I get to that car, I'll be happy, or when I get that job, I'll be secure, or when I'm in that situation, I'll be peaceful. Once you realize it's not out there, it's in here. You're playing with the house's money, so dare to be great. Go for it, because it don't matter. You're leaving with what you came with anyway. It's all in here. You can be happy riding a bicycle to work. You can be happy driving a Porsche to work. The only thing that makes you happy is not the Porsche or the bicycle. It's what is inside you, the darkness that's in there. So I'd go back and tell the young lad, don't take yourself so seriously. It doesn't matter. You're playing with the house's money anyway. You're going to go with what you came with. Just have fun and go for it. Dare to be great and brave. And that's what I tell myself.
I love that. It reminds me of a song called Love Yours by J. Cole. Check it out, audience, or if you want to listen to it, where, you love yours, someone else is going to have a nicer house or car, or, and then if you're not happy, then none of it really matters, what you're riding, what watch you're wearing, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I often find it where you set these materialistic goals, and to your point, once you achieve it, it doesn't feel like there's like a short week or two or a little span of you're like, yeah, it's great, but what's next, right? It's the thrill of the seek that really will keep you happy, not actually having one of those nice cars. All that dies out, and at the end of the day, if you're not happy, you're not happy. So work on that.
Yeah,
Makes
100%.
Sense. Makes sense. Well, there you have it, folks. Kruise Leeming with a professional rugby, the Wigan Warriors. We're going to link all of his Instagram below so you guys could get a hold of him. Thank you for coming on, man. You've shared some great things, and truly appreciate you taking the time. I know it's late over there, and the sun, is kind of going down, but it looks great. It highlights you, and I had a good time, man. I hope you did as well.
Oh no, thank you, Simon. Thanks to you and your team, and thanks for having me on. Hopefully I'll get back on again at some point at a later stage. I'd love to come out and see you as well. I love traveling. I were in America last year, obviously, for the game, and traveled around Nashville and New York and Vegas. So hopefully I'll be in America soon and come and see you and your team. But thanks for having me on. You're always welcome. And if you are out and you're around, I'll definitely make the time. We'll do a podcast in person one day. It's even more fun and even more therapeutic. I do love it. I think we mentioned, having deep conversations helps out. That's why I do it. And hopefully we see more rugby here in the States, because it's a hell of a sport. I want to experience it, especially one day with the Haka chant. And I want to see the intensity, because I think there's no other intensity. And generally, in Europe and everywhere but America, the intensity of sports is always so much higher, whether it's from football or from soccer, they call it here, or some of the other sports, even basketball. I've seen Jokic one time was asked a question from the Denver Nuggets. Do you feel the intensity of playing in a playoff game? He's like, brother, I'm from Serbia. And then I looked up the games there. People are burning stuff in the, inside the stadium. They have flamethrowers and this, and they're yelling, and the whole thing's vibrating. And I'm like, man, this is like, that's the intensity I want to experience. Thanks for coming on again. I truly appreciate it. And I look forward to meeting you one day, my brother. Appreciate you.